Before we begin tonight's story, I'd like to invite all of you listening to hit the subscribe button. So stories like this, stories filled with real emotions, painful lessons, and quiet truths can reach more people who may need to hear them. And if you've ever carried a regret or lost something precious because of a choice you can't take back, if you've ever wished for one more chance to say I am sorry or I am here now, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Who knows, your words might be the light that helps someone else find their way through the darkest chapter of their life. Tonight's story comes from a listener who wrote to our program, Whispers of the Old Heart. It is titled, The Man Who Came Home Too Late, a story of regret, choices, and the price of love. This is the story of Ethan, a man who believed that no matter how far he wandered, no matter how many mistakes he made, his family would always wait for him. But life is not always that forgiving. Some lessons arrive gently. Others come crashing down when it's already too late. And for Ethan, the lesson came wrapped in silence, absence, and a truth he never wanted to face. Now, let us begin. Chapter 1. The Quiet House on Willow Lane. Ethan Walker used to believe that life always gave second chances. He believed it the way some people believe in luck, or prayer, or destiny. But beliefs, like people, don't always survive the choices that break them. For most of his adult life, Ethan had been a man constantly on the move, chasing contracts, chasing money, chasing opportunities that always seemed just one state away, then two, then five. His job as a long-distance construction project coordinator kept him traveling from city to city, rarely staying in one place long enough to settle in. The pay was good, the hotels were comfortable, and the constant motion made him feel important. But the truth he never said aloud, was simpler and far more fragile. He didn't know how to stay. Not with people, not with promises, and especially not with the woman who had once waited for him with a heart full of hope. Her name was Leila Thompson, and she had been his wife for 9 years. They lived, or rather, she lived, in a cozy white-painted house on Willow Lane, a quiet street where the trees leaned over the sidewalks like old friends, whispering secrets. The kind of neighborhood where children rode their bikes until sunset, where neighbors waved from porches, and where life moved gently, unhurried. It was the kind of place people built families in. It was the kind of place Leila had dreamed of sharing with Ethan. But for Ethan, it had become a place he returned to only between one trip and the next. Long enough to shower, repack, kiss his wife half-heartedly, and rush out again before she could ask him to stay just one more day. And yet, Leila never stopped asking, "Will you be home this weekend, Ethan? We could have dinner together. Maya misses you. I miss you." Her voice was always soft when she said it, never accusing, never angry, just tired. The hollow kind of tired that hurts more than shouting. And Ethan, eyes on his suitcase, always gave the same answer, "I'll try." But he rarely did. The evening everything changed. On the night he returned home, the night that would mark the beginning of everything that followed, Ethan arrived later than usual. It was close to midnight. The street was quiet, the porch light was off, and the house felt wrapped in a silence that made his chest tighten. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. The air was still. Too still. He expected to see Leila asleep on the couch, a book open on her chest, as she often did when waiting for him. He expected the soft glow of the hallway lamp she always left on, so he wouldn't have to come home to darkness. But that night, the lamp was off. He frowned. Leila, his voice echoed slightly, a sound he had never noticed until that moment. He walked through the living room, past the framed photos on the wall. The last one they had taken together was from 3 years ago. Leila smiling wide, her dark hair blowing in the wind, her arm wrapped around his waist while his hand rested awkwardly on her shoulder. He stared at the photo for a few seconds longer than he meant to, then continued down the hallway. The door to Leila's art room was half open. Soft light spilled out. He hesitated before gently pushing it wider. Inside, Leila sat at her small wooden desk, her back to him. Paintbrushes were scattered across the table. A canvas stood on the easel near the window, colors half finished, strokes frozen in time as if she had been interrupted. But what struck Ethan the most wasn't the painting. It was Leila herself. Her shoulders slumped, her head hung slightly forward, and beside her hand was a sealed envelope, white, neatly written, with his name on it. Ethan. For a moment, he didn't breathe. "Leila," he whispered. She didn't turn. He stepped closer, his heartbeat unsteady, a faint chill crawling up his spine. "Leila, are you awake?" Slowly, she shifted, not startled, not surprised, just tired, deeply, achingly tired. She looked over her shoulder, her eyes red but calm. "You're home," she said quietly. Finally, her voice wasn't angry. It wasn't cold. It was something far worse. Resigned. Ethan swallowed. "Yeah, I had got back as soon as I could." A small, sad smile touched her lips. "That's what you always say." He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Instead, Leila picked up the envelope and held it gently between her fingers. "I wrote you a letter," she said. "A letter I wasn't sure I'd ever give you." His stomach twisted. What does it say?" Leila took a breath. Long, steady, almost peaceful. "You'll read it when it's time." Ethan tried to reach for her hand, but she withdrew it. "Leila, what's going on?" Her eyes shimmered with something he couldn't name. "Ethan," she whispered, "I waited for you. So many years. I waited for you to come home. Not just to this house, but to us. To me." Every word landed on him like a weight he wasn't prepared to hold. "And now," she said softly, "I'm just not sure you know how to come home anymore." Before Ethan could respond, she stood, walked past him gently, and placed the envelope inside the drawer of her art desk. Then she touched his arm briefly, a light touch, almost like goodbye, and walked out of the room. Ethan stood frozen. And for the first time in a long time, he felt afraid. Not of losing his job, not of losing a contract, but of losing the one person who had been waiting for him long after he stopped deserving it. Behind him, the envelope with his name on it lay hidden in the drawer. The letter she wrote, but wasn't ready to send. And Ethan had no idea how much that letter would change everything. Chapter 2. The letter in the drawer. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. He lay in the bedroom, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft hum of the air conditioner. Every sound in the house felt amplified. The creak of the floorboards, the distant drip of a faucet, the quiet rustle of wind brushing against the curtains. But what kept him awake wasn't the silence. It was the drawer. The drawer in Leela's art room where the letter lay hidden, like a fragile promise or a ticking time bomb. He had tried to read her eyes when she had left it there, but she hadn't let him. There had been no anger, no blame, only a weary resignation that cut deeper than any shouting match ever could. The temptation to know. By morning, Ethan's curiosity had become unbearable. He told himself he would wait, that he wouldn't open it until she gave permission. But the letter was calling to him, its presence pressing against the edges of his mind. After breakfast, which had been quiet, almost awkwardly so, he walked back to the art room. Lila was in the kitchen, humming softly while washing dishes. Her back was to him, the morning sunlight catching in her hair. Ethan hesitated. He could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his chest. Then, almost against his will, he bent down, opened the drawer, and pulled the envelope into his hands. The handwriting was unmistakable. Every curve of every letter carried her essence. Delicate, thoughtful, careful. His fingers trembled as he broke the seal. Her words, "Ethan," the letter began. "If you are reading this, it means I have found the courage to give you a truth I've carried for too long. I have loved you more than I can express. I have waited for you in ways that sometimes left me hollow, sometimes left me angry, and sometimes left me wondering if my love was ever enough." He read on, the words blurring as his throat tightened. "I know you've been busy chasing work, chasing success, chasing things I could never touch. And I've waited, believing that one day you would come home to me, that you would see me not just as someone who waits, but as your partner, your equal, your life. But the truth, Ethan, is that I am tired. Tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of imagining a future where my love alone could hold us together. I can't keep sacrificing myself in silence anymore." Ethan's hand shook, and his stomach sank. The letter was a mirror reflecting everything he had taken for granted, everything he had ignored. "I need to know, Ethan, if you truly see me, if you truly hear me, if you are ready to come home, not to this house, not to the walls and rooms we share, but to us, to me, to the love we once promised each other." The letter ended abruptly, leaving the final line almost like a whisper. "If you can't, then I will step forward alone." Confronting the truth, Ethan's hands went cold. He sank into the chair by the desk, gripping the letter like it was the only lifeline he had left. He could hear Leela moving in the kitchen, humming softly, unaware that the fragile truth he had avoided for so long was now fully in his hands. Every fiber of his being screamed that he needed to find her, to tell her he saw her, that he heard her, that he had been blind and selfish and wrong. But he also feared that he might have waited too long. The weight of guilt pressed against his chest. Years of absence, missed dinners, missed birthdays, missed moments with their daughter Maya, and missed opportunities to simply be there. All came crashing down. Ethan realized, with a sudden, terrifying clarity, that he might have spent his life running from the one person who had loved him unconditionally. The decision he put the letter down, ran his fingers through his hair, and made a vow to himself. He would not waste another moment. He would not allow silence to destroy what remained. Ethan walked into the kitchen, his voice trembling. "Lila, I need to talk to you." She turned, her eyes wary but not unkind. "About what?" "About us," he said, taking a deep breath. "About this letter. I've read it. I understand everything now, and I want to fix it. I want to come home, not just to this house, but to you. To us, to Maya. I've been blind, but I see now. I promise you, I'll do better." Her lips pressed into a thin line. She looked at him for what felt like an eternity, studying his face for truth, for sincerity, for proof that this was indeed just another promise that would vanish the next time he had to leave. Finally, she spoke softly. "Ethan, words are easy. Actions, that's where I need to see change. I've loved you for years, but I cannot keep waiting. Not anymore." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I know, and I'll prove it to you, I swear." Starting now, the first step that morning. For the first time in years, Ethan did something simple but profound. He made breakfast. Not for himself, not for work, but for his family. He set the table with care, poured juice for Maya, and watched as Lila joined them. It was awkward at first, stilted smiles, hesitant conversation. But with each shared bite, each glance, each small laugh, a bridge began to form. A bridge built not on words alone, but on presence. The letter remained on the desk, a silent reminder of the past and a catalyst for the future. Ethan knew he could never erase his mistakes, but he could live differently, starting from this very morning. And for the first time, he believed, truly believed, that maybe, just maybe, he could come home. Chapter 3. The first step toward redemption. The next morning, Ethan woke before the sun. He didn't check his phone, didn't scroll through work emails, didn't think about meetings or deadlines. Today, he had one task: to be present. He quietly entered the kitchen and found Lila and Maya already up. Maya, their 8-year-old daughter, was scribbling with crayons at the breakfast table, her hair tousled from sleep. Lila was standing by the stove, flipping pancakes, her expression calm but guarded. "Good morning," Ethan said, his voice soft. He paused. "Can I help?" Lila glanced at him, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. "You want to?" He nodded. "I want to. For today, at least, I'll try to do things differently." For the first time in years, Lila smiled, just slightly. Not fully trusting yet, but the walls had a small crack. Small actions, big meanings. Ethan started with simple things: pouring juice, buttering pancakes, and making Maya laugh with a silly dance that made her giggle uncontrollably. Lila watched quietly, and Ethan sensed she was measuring his sincerity. He didn't mind, he needed her to see, not just hear, his intention to change. As breakfast ended, Ethan cleared the dishes with Lila, side by side. The silence wasn't awkward, it was tense with possibility. Every clink of silverware against plates was a reminder that actions spoke louder than words. After breakfast, Ethan suggested a family walk. The morning air was crisp, the streets still quiet, the world waking up slowly around them. Maya held his hand tightly, her small fingers wrapped around his. Lila walked slightly behind, arms folded, studying him carefully. "I know I haven't been the husband or father I promised," Ethan said gently. "I know I've hurt you both. I can't erase the past, but I want to start building something real again." Maya looked up at him, eyes wide. "Daddy, will you stay today?" He smiled, choking back emotion. "Yes, I'll stay. For as long as you'll have me." Facing the consequences that afternoon, Ethan knew he couldn't just fix everything with gestures. Words had to come too. He needed to confront his past choices, the late nights away from home, the missed birthdays, the lonely nights Lila endured. Sitting on the couch, he took Lila's hands in his. "I know saying I'm sorry isn't enough. I need to show you, every day. I need to be here for you both. I want to rebuild trust. I want to rebuild us." Lila's eyes glistened with emotion. "Ethan, it's not just about being here today. It's about being here tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. I don't want words, I want proof. Actions, consistency, presence. That's the only way I'll believe it's real." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I understand, and I'll do it, I promise. I'll take every day as a chance to earn it back." For a moment, the tension between them softened. A fragile bridge had been laid, held together by sincerity and hope. The power of small moments. That evening, Ethan decided to make another small but meaningful gesture. He sat with Maya to help with her homework, a simple act he had never prioritized before. They worked on math problems, spelling, and reading aloud. Lila watched from the doorway, noticing how he patiently encouraged Maya, how he didn't rush through the work, how he smiled genuinely at her progress. After homework, Ethan suggested baking cookies together, a tradition that had faded over the years. The kitchen filled with laughter, flour dusting their hands and faces, the aroma of chocolate chip cookies rising like a symbol of something long missing, now slowly returning. For the first time in months, Lila laughed freely, Maya's giggles echoing through the house. Ethan felt warmth in his chest, a quiet validation that even the smallest actions could begin to heal wounds left by years of absence. A walk through old memories. Later that evening, Ethan asked Lila to take a walk with him down Willow Lane. The street was bathed in the amber glow of streetlights, quiet and peaceful. They walked slowly, side by side, past houses with families enjoying their evenings. "This street, it reminds me of when we first moved here," Lila said softly. "We were full of dreams, weren't we?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, and somehow, I lost sight of them along the way. I was chasing everything else and forgot what mattered most." She looked at him, eyes searching. "Do you even remember why we stayed together in the first place?" He smiled faintly, a mix of guilt and warmth. "Because we believed in us. Because we promised to try, no matter what. And I want to keep trying, starting now." The promise to himself. When they returned home, Ethan stood alone in the living room for a moment, looking around at the quiet house. He knew this was just the beginning. Trust wasn't something that could be rebuilt overnight. But he also knew that every small action, every shared laugh, every moment of presence mattered. He opened the drawer where Lila's letter had been and read it once more. Its words were no longer just warnings or accusations. They were a roadmap, a guide to what he needed to become. Ethan whispered to himself, "I won't waste another day. I will be here, I will be present. I will come home every day. For them, for us." And for the first time in years, Ethan felt a glimmer of hope. Hope that love, even after neglect and distance, could survive. That redemption, even for a man like him, was possible. Chapter 4. The walls begin to fall. The next morning dawned quietly, with sunlight filtering gently through the blinds. Ethan woke before the alarm, feeling a strange mixture of hope and anxiety. He had made it through the previous day with small victories: pancakes, homework, cookies, and most importantly, laughter. Yet he knew that true redemption wasn't a single day. It was ongoing, relentless, and tested by unforeseen moments. He walked into the kitchen and found Leela at the counter, making coffee. Maya was reading at the table, her small hand tracing letters in her notebook. They both looked up as he entered. "Good morning," Ethan said softly, a nervous smile on his face. "Can I help with breakfast again?" Leela studied him for a moment before nodding. "You may, but I'm warning you. Pancakes are a serious business." Ethan chuckled lightly, grateful for the small warmth in her tone. It was a start. The first test of the morning passed smoothly until the doorbell rang. Leela frowned. Who could that be? Ethan walked to the door, opening it to reveal Rachel, one of his former colleagues. She smiled brightly. "Ethan, I was in town and thought I'd drop by. Just for a quick hello." Ethan froze. He hadn't seen Rachel in years. And while there was nothing romantic in their relationship, he could feel the tension rising. This was a test he hadn't anticipated. "Rachel, this is a surprise," he said, trying to remain calm. Leela's eyes narrowed slightly, though she remained composed. Ethan could feel her skepticism, the invisible wall between them reacting to this intrusion. I should have called first," Rachel said, sensing the tension. "I'll just come back another time." But Lila's voice stopped her. "No, it's fine. You're here now." "Coffee." Ethan exhaled quietly. He knew Leela was testing his reaction, and he had to be careful. Every word, every gesture, mattered. Acknowledging the past, after Rachel left, Ethan sat down with Leela. "I know, that was awkward," he said quietly. "I understand why you might feel uneasy. I want you to know there's nothing between us. You are my life. Maya is my life. I've realized what matters now, and I won't let anyone or anything come between us again." Leela's eyes softened slightly, though the wall remained. "Ethan, actions speak louder than words. Yesterday, and even this morning, you've shown effort. But life isn't perfect. Every day will be another test. I need to see consistency." Ethan nodded. "I'll prove it. Every day, I promise." The small victories. The day continued with small victories. Ethan took Maya to the park, pushing her on the swings, catching her when she fell, laughing at her jokes. For the first time in years, Ethan felt connected, not just physically, but emotionally. When they returned home, Ethan noticed Lila sitting in the living room, a sketchbook in her lap. He hesitated before approaching. "Can I sit?" he asked. She nodded. Of course. Ethan sat across from her. They didn't speak at first. The silence was heavy but comforting. Finally, Ethan spoke. "I know I've hurt you, Lila, and I know rebuilding trust isn't easy. But I want to be here, fully. For you, for Maya, for us. I've wasted too many days thinking I had time, but I see now. Time waits for no one." Lila looked down at her sketchbook, then back at him. "Ethan, seeing you try matters, it really does. But you need to understand, I've built walls to protect myself and Maya. They won't come down overnight." "I know," he said softly. "And I'll respect that. I'll be patient. I'll earn it. Piece by piece, day by day." An unexpected revelation. Later that evening, Ethan was helping Maya with her bedtime routine when he noticed Lila standing in the doorway, holding a photo album. "I found this in the attic," she said softly. "Pictures from when you were away. From before you really started traveling so much." They sat together on the couch as Leela flipped through the album. Each photograph carried a memory. Birthdays he missed, family dinners he skipped, moments he could never get back. "I didn't realize how much you sacrificed waiting for me," Ethan whispered, his voice breaking. I don't deserve your patience." Lila looked at him, eyes glistening. "We all make choices, Ethan, and now, we choose to move forward. That's what matters, not the past. The past is heavy, but it can't weigh down the future if we carry it together." The walls began to fall that night. Ethan lay awake, reflecting on the day. Small victories, moments of connection, and shared laughter had created cracks in the walls he had built around himself. For the first time, he realized that redemption wasn't a single act. It was a series of moments strung together, choices made over and over, demonstrating love, presence, and accountability. Ethan promised himself that no matter how difficult the road, he would continue to walk it. For Lila, for Maya, for the life he had almost lost because of his own neglect. And somewhere deep inside, he felt the first real glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, the walls could come down entirely. Chapter 5, Echoes of Silence. The following morning brought with it a calm, almost deceptive peace. Ethan woke early, as he had grown accustomed to doing, but today the quiet carried an unfamiliar weight. He had begun to rebuild trust with Leela and Maya, yet he sensed there were echoes of the past lingering in every corner of the house. Every glance, every pause in conversation. After breakfast, Ethan offered to take Maya to school. Lila hesitated, then nodded. "I'll stay today," she said softly, "but I need some time to think." Ethan nodded, understanding her need for space. The walk to school was pleasant, with Maya chattering about her friends, her teachers, and an upcoming school play. Ethan listened intently, realizing that listening itself was a form of healing. The silence speaks when they returned home. The house felt emptier without Maya's presence. Ethan wandered through the rooms, noticing the small details he had overlooked in the past. The photographs on the walls, Leela's sketches scattered across her desk, and the faint scent of lavender that lingered in the air. He heard her before he saw her. Lila was sitting at the piano, her fingers lightly tracing the keys, producing a soft, melancholic melody. Ethan paused at the doorway, hesitant to interrupt. The music carried a story, a silent confession of her emotions, and he realized sometimes silence could speak louder than words. Finally, he spoke, his voice gentle. "Lila, that's beautiful." She glanced at him, a fleeting smile touching her lips. "It's nothing," she said softly, though he could hear the underlying vulnerability. Ethan stepped closer, sitting beside her. "I want to understand," he said quietly. "Tell me everything you feel, even if it's difficult." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she began, revealing hidden pain. "I've felt lonely, Ethan," Lila admitted. "Even when you were here, I sometimes felt like I was waiting for a ghost, a version of you that existed only when it was convenient for you to be home. Maya and we survived because we had each other. But I've carried this weight, this echo of emptiness, for years." Ethan's heart ached. Every word she spoke was a mirror of the pain he had caused, a reflection of the neglect he had justified to himself with work and ambition. "I know I can't erase the past," he whispered, "but I want to do everything I can to be here now, to make it right." She looked at him, eyes glistening. "It's not just about being here physically, it's about showing up, consistently, emotionally, and fully. Words are easy, actions are harder." Ethan nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "I understand, I'm ready for the hard part. I want to earn this trust back, every single day." A test of trust, the next few days were filled with small, deliberate actions. Ethan cooked meals, helped with homework, and even attempted to repair some of the damage in the house, literal and metaphorical. But the true challenge came unexpectedly one afternoon. A neighbor stopped by with a concern about Maya's school project. Ethan handled the conversation calmly, patiently explaining the situation and offering support. Lila watched silently, noting how he remained composed, responsible, and genuinely involved. It was a small moment, yet significant. For Leela, it was proof that Ethan was beginning to understand the depth of responsibility he had abandoned for so long. The night of reflection that evening, Ethan sat alone in the living room, reflecting on the week's events. The letter from Lila remained in his mind, its words echoing like a haunting refrain. He realized that redemption was not a single act, but a continuous journey, one that required patience, humility, and unwavering commitment. He thought about the years he had spent chasing success, the birthdays he had missed, the nights he had returned late and distracted, and the quiet loneliness he had left in Leela's heart. Every echo of silence in the house now carried a lesson he could no longer ignore. Ethan whispered to himself, "I will not fail them again. I will not waste another moment. I will be here, fully, for the rest of my life if I must." A small breakthrough late that night. As he prepared to go to bed, he heard a soft knock on the door. Leela entered, holding a small cup of tea. "I thought you might like this before bed," she said, her voice gentle, almost hesitant. Ethan took the cup, their fingers brushing briefly. It was a simple gesture, yet profound. It signified a crack in the wall, a willingness to bridge the distance that had grown between them. "Thank you," he said sincerely. "It means more than you know." She nodded, a quiet understanding passing between them. No words were needed. Tonight, the echoes of silence had shifted from emptiness to possibility, from distance to the first stirrings of reconnection. Chapter 6, Confronting the Shadows. The morning sun streamed through the blinds, casting long, golden stripes across the floor. Ethan had been awake for hours, pacing quietly in the living room. He knew the journey of redemption would not be linear. There would be setbacks, old habits, and buried emotions waiting to resurface. Today, he had decided, he would confront not just his past mistakes, but the shadows of his own neglect, those moments of absence that had hurt Lila and Maya the most. The conversation he dreaded after breakfast. Ethan asked Lila if they could talk. She looked at him cautiously, but agreed. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the quiet hum of the refrigerator the only background sound. I need to talk about the past, Ethan began. Not to dwell on it, but to face it. To face the mistakes I made, the times I wasn't there, the promises I broke. Lila's eyes softened, yet a hint of steel remained. It's painful, Ethan. Revisiting old wounds isn't easy. Are you sure you're ready? Ethan nodded. I am. I need to understand everything to take responsibility fully. I can't keep pretending it's just about showing up now. I need to confront the shadows I've left behind. The unexpected revelation. He began to speak about specific moments, birthdays he had missed, late nights working instead of attending school events, the evenings he returned too late to tuck Maya into bed. With each admission, Lila listened silently, occasionally nodding, sometimes swallowing hard. It wasn't just the absence, Lila said finally, her voice trembling. It was the invisibility. When you were home, sometimes you were here physically, but not emotionally. We existed in the same space, but you weren't present. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He had been blind to that truth for years. I see it now, he whispered, and I am so sorry. I understand how deeply that hurt you and Maya. Mayas perspective later that afternoon. Ethan sat down with Maya. He wanted to hear her side, to understand the child's perspective of a father who had been distant. Daddy, Maya began cautiously, I was sad when you weren't there. Sometimes I felt like you didn't care, like I didn't matter. Ethan took her hands in his. I care, Maya. You are everything to me, and I know saying it now doesn't undo the past, but I promise to be here from now on, fully. No more absent days. No more ignoring your feelings. Maya studied him for a long moment. Then, with a small smile, she whispered, Okay, Daddy, I believe you, but you have to show me. Ethan nodded, tears welling in his eyes. I will. Every day, the family walk. That evening, Ethan suggested a walk through the nearby park, a place full of memories from before his constant traveling began. Lila hesitated but eventually agreed. Maya held Ethan's hand tightly, her little fingers warm and insistent. As they walked, Ethan spoke softly. I want to hear from both of you. Everything I need to understand. The things I missed, the ways I hurt you, even the small things I didn't notice. Lila's voice was quiet but firm. It's not just about noticing. It's about being consistent, being aware, being emotionally present, and sometimes, it's about facing your own fears, your fear of responsibility, of intimacy, of failure. Ethan nodded. I know now, and I'm ready to face those fears. For you, for Maya, for us confronting the shadows. The walk continued in silence for a while. But then Lila spoke again, her words carrying a weight Ethan had never fully comprehended. Ethan, the shadows of our life together are not just your absence. They are the unspoken resentments, the silent nights, the things left unsaid. If we are going to move forward, we need to confront them together. Ethan took a deep breath. I'm ready. I will face every shadow, every regret, every mistake. I will not shy away from the pain I caused. I will work through it with you. For the first time in months, a sense of unity formed between them, fragile, tentative, but undeniably present. They weren't fixed, and they weren't whole, but they were facing reality together, hand in hand. The night of reflection. That night, after Maya was asleep, Ethan and Lila sat on the porch. The stars were scattered across the sky like scattered pieces of their fractured past. Ethan spoke softly. I never realized how much I took for granted your patience, your love, the little moments that truly mattered. Lila reached out, touching his hand. It's not too late, Ethan, but we must be honest with each other. No more pretending, no more avoidance. Confronting the shadows is the only way we move forward. Ethan squeezed her hand, feeling the weight of his own guilt, but also the flicker of hope. I will. Every day, I'll face them. For us, for Maya, for the life I almost lost. And for the first time in a long while, the house on Willow Lane felt like home, not just a building, but a living, breathing space where he could finally belong. Chapter 7. Bridges rebuilt. The morning sun broke over Willow Lane with a gentle warmth, painting the familiar streets in hues of gold and amber. Ethan woke with a renewed sense of purpose. The past weeks had been a delicate balancing act, showing presence, facing mistakes, and earning trust one small step at a time. But today, he felt it was time to take bolder steps toward rebuilding the bridges he had once burned. After breakfast, Ethan suggested a family project organizing the backyard. Lila hesitated, then slowly nodded, recognizing the effort behind the simple suggestion. Maya's eyes lit up at the idea, imagining games and adventures amidst the flowers and trees. Working together, they began clearing the overgrown garden, pulling weeds, and rearranging the old flower beds. Ethan handed tools to Maya and guided her carefully, showing patience he had often lacked. Lila joined in, her hands covered in dirt, laughter occasionally escaping as she joked about Ethan's awkward attempt to prune the hedges. This isn't so bad, Lila said, smiling. I guess some things do get better when we do them together. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. These moments, though mundane, carried significance far greater than he had realized. They weren't just clearing a garden, they were clearing the debris of years of neglect, planting seeds of trust, laughter, and shared effort. A conversation from the heart. During a break, Ethan and Leela sat on the old wooden bench at the edge of the yard. Sunlight dappled through the trees, casting patterns across their hands intertwined on his knees. "I want to thank you," Ethan began, his voice earnest, "for giving me another chance, for being patient, for trusting that I can change." Leela shook her head slightly. "It's not just about trusting, it's about noticing, about participating, about being aware. You've started to see that, but consistency will prove it." Ethan nodded. "I know, and I will. I've learned that love isn't just words or promises, it's actions, day after day. And I'm ready to put in the work." Her eyes softened, and for the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to lean on him, a gesture of fragile trust beginning to solidify. A shared memory. Maya ran toward them, holding a small branch decorated with leaves. "Look, I made a magic wand." Ethan smiled. "A magic wand? What does it do?" "It can make wishes come true," Maya declared confidently. "I wish our family is always happy." Ethan looked at Leela, his heart swelling. "I wish that too," he whispered. Leela smiled faintly. "Then let's make it happen, together." In that moment, Ethan realized that rebuilding a family wasn't about grand gestures or instant forgiveness. It was the accumulation of small, sincere actions, each one a step toward bridging the gap left by years of absence. The evening of reconnection. That evening, Ethan suggested a quiet dinner on the patio, the air filled with the scent of freshly baked bread and the subtle fragrance of evening flowers. They ate slowly, savoring both the food and the company. The conversation flowed naturally, sometimes interrupted by laughter, sometimes by thoughtful silence. After dinner, Ethan suggested a small tradition. Each night, they would share one thing that mattered to them, one reflection of the day, no matter how small. Lila agreed, and even Maya eagerly participated. It was a simple ritual, but it became a cornerstone of their healing, a daily affirmation of connection and mutual presence, a symbolic step. Later, Ethan retrieved the old letters and photographs he had discovered weeks earlier. Together, they sorted through them, laughing at old memories, reflecting on lessons learned, and acknowledging moments of pain. "This is our history," Ethan said quietly, "the good, the bad, and everything in between. We can't change it, but we can shape what comes next." Leela nodded, "And by shaping it together, we rebuild what was lost." Ethan felt the weight of guilt lighten slightly. Bridges were being rebuilt, not just in the backyard or through words, but in the shared experiences, trust, and dedication that now define their interactions. The promise of tomorrow. As night fell, the family gathered in the living room, the soft glow of lamps casting a warm ambience. Ethan held Leela's hand, then Maya's, and for the first time, he felt fully present, fully responsible, and fully alive in the role he had once neglected. "Today was good," Leela said quietly. "Not perfect, but good. And good is a start." Ethan nodded, tears pricking the corners of his eyes. "Yes, good is a start. And tomorrow, we'll keep building." Maya yawned, snuggling against her mother. "I love you both," she whispered. Ethan hugged them both tightly. "I love you too, more than anything, and I'll spend every day proving it." Outside, the stars shimmered over Willow Lane, witnessing the quiet yet profound rebirth of a family determined to heal, rebuild, and move forward together. Chapter 8. Shadows of the past resurfaced. The next morning dawned gray and drizzly, casting a somber light over Willow Lane. Ethan woke early, as was now his routine, but a subtle unease lingered in his chest. The past, he realized, was never fully behind him. It had a way of creeping back when he least expected it. After breakfast, Leela prepared for work while Ethan got Maya ready for school. The routine felt familiar, comforting, and yet Ethan sensed tension beneath the calm. There were echoes of old resentment in the quiet glances Leela occasionally shot him. An unexpected call just as Ethan was tucking Maya into the car. His phone buzzed. It was Mark, his former business partner, a man whose decisions years ago had contributed to Ethan's excessive absences and obsession with work. "Ethan," Mark's voice crackled over the line. "We need to meet. There's been a problem with the project we left unfinished." Ethan's heart sank. Business matters had always been the source of his neglect, the ghosts that pulled him away from home. "I'll handle it," he said, trying to mask the anxiety. "I'll meet you this afternoon." Hanging up, he felt a pang of guilt. Leaving for a few hours now, even briefly, might resurface doubts in Leela's mind. But he knew he had to confront the remnants of his past, the obligations that once consumed him. Confronting old habits, the meeting with Mark was tense. Papers, spreadsheets, and unfinished deals littered the table, reminders of Ethan's previous life of obsession. Mark spoke fast, demanding immediate decisions. Ethan listened carefully, keeping his voice calm but firm. "This project will be finalized," Ethan said, "but not at the expense of the life I've almost lost. I'm learning that some things are more important than business." Mark scoffed. "You're soft now, Ethan. You've changed." Are you sure you can handle both? Ethan took a deep breath. I'm handling what matters first. My family, everything else comes second. It was the first time he had drawn a firm boundary, recognizing that his past patterns had to be consciously broken. The test at home. Returning home, Ethan sensed the tension before he even opened the door. Lila was waiting, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Maya peeked from behind her mother, wary. I was worried, Lila said softly. Even a short absence makes me question, will you be pulled away again? Ethan knelt to Maya's level. I'm home now, and I will be here. I faced some shadows today, and it reminded me of what matters most. I won't let work steal me away again. Lila's eyes softened, though the wall of doubt remained partially intact. Actions will prove that, Ethan. Words are not enough. Ethan nodded, silently promising himself to walk the path of consistent presence, no matter the challenges the past tried to bring forward. Unexpected emotions. That evening, Lila suggested they go for a walk, a small attempt to reconnect after the stressful day. The rain had ceased, leaving wet streets glimmering under the streetlights. Ethan noticed the hesitance in Lila's steps, the subtle tension in her posture. She finally spoke. Ethan, every time the past reappears, I feel it creeping into our present. The mistakes, the absence, they haunt me, and sometimes I can't help but worry. Ethan reached for her hand. I understand, and I can't erase the past, but I can choose to stay, every day, fully aware and fully present. I won't let it control us. For a moment, they walked in silence, their hands clasped, feeling the fragility and strength of the bridges they were rebuilding. A shared confession. Later that night, Ethan and Lila sat together in the living room. Ethan took a deep breath. I have to confess something, he said. Even though I'm trying to be better, part of me is afraid. Afraid that the past will always come back, that I'll fail, and you'll lose faith in me again. Lila's eyes softened, her hand brushing his. Ethan, that fear is normal. We all carry it. The difference now is that we face it together. You acknowledge it, and that makes all the difference. Ethan nodded, tears threatening to spill. I want to face it, with you, every day. Lila leaned on him slightly. Then we will, together. The night of reconnection, Maya entered the room, quietly, holding a small drawing she had made at school. It depicted the three of them, Ethan, Lila, and herself, standing under a rainbow, holding hands. I made this for us, she said softly, so we can remember to stay together, even when shadows come. Ethan took the drawing, feeling his heart swell with gratitude. Thank you, Maya, this is perfect. And we will remember, every day. Lila smiled faintly, the tension of the day easing. Sometimes shadows appear, she said softly, but if we walk through them together, they lose their power. Ethan nodded, holding both Lila and Maya close. The echoes of the past had returned, but they no longer held dominion over their lives. Chapter 9. Truths Unearthed. The morning sunlight spilled into the kitchen, illuminating small motes of dust that floated lazily in the air. Ethan stood by the window, staring out at the backyard they had been slowly restoring together. He had learned that rebuilding trust was a patient, careful process, but he knew that the next step in their journey involved truths that had long been buried. Lila joined him, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea. What's on your mind? She asked quietly. I think we need to be completely honest, Ethan said, his voice steady but filled with apprehension. Not just with each other, but also with ourselves. There are things I've kept inside, fears and regrets, and I think it's time we lay them all out. Lila nodded, a faint tension in her posture. I agree, honesty can hurt, but it can also heal. Uncovering hidden regrets, they sat down at the kitchen table, a stack of old letters and photographs between them. Ethan picked up a photo of Maya's first birthday, remembering the chaos of his work obligations that had made him miss part of the celebration. I never fully appreciated how much my absence affected you, Ethan said quietly. I see now that every missed moment, every distraction, added up. I was selfish, thinking I could catch up later. Lila's eyes softened, though a shadow of pain lingered. You can't take back what's done, she said gently, but recognizing it is the first step. Ethan nodded. There's more I need to confess. I've been afraid that even if I try to fix things, it might never be enough. That the damage I caused is permanent. Lila reached out, placing her hand over his. Fear is natural, but if we let it guide us, we stay stuck. We've come this far because we choose to face it, together. Maya's insight later, Maya joined them, holding a small notebook. I want to say something, she said, her voice timid but determined. Ethan and Lila turned to her, listening intently. I know you made mistakes, Daddy, Maya said, but I also see that you're trying. That matters. And Mommy, I know it's been hard, but you're letting him in. That matters too. Can we just be a family? Ethan felt tears prick at his eyes. Yes, Maya, we can. And we will. Every day, we'll work to be the family we should have always been. Lila smiled faintly, squeezing Ethan's hand. The past isn't erased, but we can decide what our future looks like. A family meeting that evening. Ethan suggested a small family meeting, an idea to establish transparency and trust moving forward. Maya excitedly helped set up the living room with candles and cushions, giving the moment a sense of ritual and significance. Ethan began, "I want us to make a promise, to speak honestly, to share our feelings, and to confront problems as they arise, rather than letting them fester. We can't change the past, but we can choose how we move forward." Lila added, "And we will support each other, even when it's uncomfortable. We will listen first, judge later, and remember that we're a team." Maya nodded enthusiastically. "I promise too." The small gathering felt symbolic, a formal commitment to honesty, trust, and shared healing. Revelations and healing. As the night deepened, Ethan and Leela reflected on the truths that had surfaced over the past weeks, the regrets, the missed moments, the fears and insecurities that had held them back. "I realize now," Ethan said softly, "that forgiveness isn't just about asking for it. It's about proving that you are worthy of it through every action." Lila nodded. "And it's also about understanding each other's vulnerabilities, not just our mistakes. We all carry burdens. Acknowledging them can bring us closer rather than tear us apart." Maya yawned, curling up on the couch with a blanket. Ethan and Lila shared a quiet glance, understanding that their family was slowly emerging stronger from the shadows of the past. A quiet promise. Before bed, Ethan sat on the porch, looking at the stars twinkling above Willow Lane. Leela joined him, a comforting presence at his side. "I never thought honesty could feel so liberating," Ethan whispered. "It does," Leela replied softly. "But it's only the beginning. There will be more challenges, more shadows, but now we know we can face them together." Ethan took her hand, feeling the weight of the past lighten slightly. Together, he agreed, "And I will never take you or Maya for granted again. I will live each day proving that our family comes first." For the first time in years, Ethan felt a sense of completeness, not perfect, not free from mistakes, but grounded in shared truth, love, and the determination to move forward. Chapter 10. Crossroads of the Heart. The morning sun filtered softly through the curtains, casting warm streaks across the living room. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, sipping his coffee, staring at a blank page in his journal. Despite the progress he and Leela had made, he felt an undercurrent of unease, a subtle reminder that healing was never a straight path. Maya's laughter drifted down the hall as she got ready for school. Leela hummed softly in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. Ethan realized that even amidst the calm, the heart faces constant crossroads, and choices must be made daily between patience and frustration, understanding and anger, love and fear. A test of loyalty later that day, an old friend, Daniel, called Ethan. Daniel had been part of the social circle Ethan had frequented before his family became his priority. "Ethan, it's been ages," Daniel said warmly. "We're having a get-together tonight. You should come. Catch up, let loose a bit." Ethan hesitated. The invitation carried the pull of old habits, easy conversations, lighthearted fun, the carefree life he once prioritized over family. But looking over at Lila, who was folding laundry nearby, he felt the weight of his current responsibilities. I don't think I can tonight," Ethan said finally. "Family comes first now." There was a pause on the line. "Wow, you've really changed, huh?" Daniel finally said, a mix of surprise and admiration in his voice. Ethan smiled faintly. Some things are worth more than old habits. Hanging up, Ethan felt a sense of clarity. Being present for Lila and Maya wasn't always easy, but it was the choice that defined him now. Conflicts and confessions that evening. After putting Maya to bed, Lila sat down beside Ethan on the couch. "I noticed your hesitation today," she said gently. "It's hard, isn't it? Sometimes old life calls louder than the one we're building together." Ethan nodded. "It is hard. Part of me misses the simplicity, the freedom of being irresponsible. But then I see Maya's smile, your eyes, and I know where I belong." Leela placed her hand over his. "You're choosing love every day, Ethan. That's what matters. But it's okay to admit it's difficult. Growth isn't painless." Ethan exhaled slowly. "I guess the crossroads of the heart aren't just about choosing right or wrong. They're about choosing what truly matters, even when it's uncomfortable." A small victory the next morning. Ethan woke early and decided to surprise Leela with breakfast in bed. He quietly prepared pancakes, brewed coffee, and carried the tray to their bedroom. Lila's eyes widened in pleasant shock. "Ethan, you didn't have to," she said, touched. "I wanted to," Ethan replied, smiling. "It's not a grand gesture, but it's a start." Maya entered, rubbing her eyes. "Breakfast in bed. For mommy. Cool," she exclaimed, joining them on the bed. Leela laughed softly, the warmth of the moment settling over them. Ethan realized that small, thoughtful actions often mattered more than grand declarations. These little choices were building the foundation for trust and intimacy. Confronting old guilt later that day, Ethan decided to visit his father, someone he had avoided for years due to past conflicts. He needed to confront the guilt he had carried for neglecting his own roots, understanding that forgiveness extended beyond immediate family. Ethan, his father, greeted him, cautious but not hostile. It's been a while, I know. Ethan replied, I've been distant, but I need to acknowledge it and try to rebuild that relationship too. Their conversation was awkward at first, but gradually, walls began to crumble. Ethan admitted past mistakes, listened to his father's perspectives, and offered sincere apologies. By the time he left, a sense of closure had begun to form. He understood that healing required confronting all corners of the past, not just those in his immediate household. The evening of reflection that night, Ethan sat with Leela on the porch, the stars twinkling above. Today was challenging, he said. Old friends, old family. It's like the past keeps testing me. Lila nodded. It will, but you've handled it with patience and honesty. That's how we keep moving forward. Ethan squeezed her hand. The crossroads of the heart are constant, but now I feel confident that I can navigate them with you and Maya as my compass. Leela smiled, resting her head briefly on his shoulder. We'll face them together. Every choice, every challenge. That's what makes us strong. A promise for the future before going to bed. Ethan checked on Maya, who was sleeping peacefully. He stood over her for a moment, watching the rise and fall of her chest, and whispered softly, I will never let the shadows of my past steal these moments from us again. I will choose you, every day, in every way. As he returned to Lila, he realized that love, trust, and redemption were not destinations, but continuous choices. Every day was a crossroads, and every choice defined the path forward. Lila's hand found his again, their fingers entwined. Together, they embraced the uncertainty, the challenges, and the joy of rebuilding their lives. For the first time, the future felt both daunting and full of hope, and they were ready to face it, side by side. Chapter 11. Unraveling Secrets. The house on Willow Lane was unusually quiet that morning. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee, but his mind wasn't on breakfast. It was on the lingering fragments of the past details he had avoided confronting, secrets that had quietly shaped his life and choices. Leela entered, placing a hand on his shoulder. You've been quiet, she observed softly. Thinking about work. Ethan shook his head. No, something else. The past. There are truths I haven't fully explored, things I need to understand before we can truly move forward. Leela nodded knowingly. Then let's face them together. Secrets have a way of surfacing, one way or another. Better now than later. The letters. Ethan pulled out the old letters and journals he had unearthed in the attic weeks ago. Many were from his younger self, filled with dreams, regrets, and confessions he had never shared. As he read through them, Leela leaned over his shoulder. Some of these reveal the man you wanted to be, not the one you became, she said gently. Ethan sighed. I buried these fears, thinking I could escape them, but they've haunted me silently, influencing the choices I made, even when I was trying to do the right thing. Together, they sorted through the letters. Each one seemed to reveal a layer of Ethan's inner struggles, mistakes, and unspoken regrets. Leela listened without judgment, only offering understanding and the occasional insight. A family revelation. Later that afternoon, Maya approached Ethan with a question she had been hesitant to ask. Daddy, why did you leave sometimes? Were you not happy at home? Ethan knelt to her level, his heart heavy. I was happy, Maya, but I made mistakes. I let other things work. Fear, and my own pride, take me away from you and Mommy. I was selfish. Maya studied him for a long moment. But you're trying now, she said softly. Yes, Ethan said, his voice filled with conviction. Every single day, I'm choosing to be here, to be present, to make sure you feel loved and safe. Maya smiled faintly. Then that's what matters. You're here now. Confronting Leela's fears that evening, Leela sat with Ethan on the porch, the air crisp and tinged with the scent of rain. Ethan, there's something I need to confess to, she began, her voice quiet. Ethan turned to her, attentive. Anything, he said. I've been afraid, she admitted. Afraid that the past will repeat itself. Afraid that even with your efforts, you might drift away again. That fear, it sometimes makes me hold back. Ethan reached for her hand. I understand, and I don't blame you. I can only show you, through every choice, that I'm committed. We can't erase the past, but we can build a present where fear has less power. Lila's eyes glistened. I want that. For us. For Maya, I want to believe in what we're rebuilding. The power of truth over the next few days. Ethan and Leela engaged in honest, sometimes painful conversations. They discussed old arguments, moments of silence that had felt like abandonment, and the unspoken expectations that had lingered for years. It was not easy. There were tears, raised voices, and moments of doubt. But with each revelation, the weight of secrets and misunderstandings lifted slightly, replaced by clarity, compassion, and mutual respect. Maya, observing the process, learned that even adults must navigate complicated emotions, and that honesty, no matter how difficult, was a bridge to understanding. A symbolic act of reconciliation one evening, Ethan suggested they visit the small river where he and Leela had spent early days together, a place symbolic of continuity, life, and reflection. They each wrote a small note confessing fears, regrets, and promises, then set them afloat on the river's surface. The papers drifted downstream, carrying away the weight of unspoken truths, leaving space for hope and new beginnings. "It feels freeing," Lila whispered, watching the papers float away. "Yes," Ethan agreed. "It's a reminder that while the past shapes us, it doesn't have to define us." Maya clapped her hands softly. "It's like magic. The river takes the bad things away." Ethan smiled, squeezing both their hands. "Exactly. And now, we choose the life we want together, one day at a time." The night of unity. That night, the family gathered in the living room. Ethan and Lila held hands, with Maya nestled between them. There were no grand words, just the quiet affirmation of presence, honesty, and love. Ethan whispered to Lila, "We've unearthed many truths, faced many shadows, but we're still here, together." Lila rested her head on his shoulder. "And will continue to be, because facing the truth doesn't weaken love, it strengthens it." Maya yawned, her eyes closing, murmuring, "I love you both." Ethan felt the warmth of the moment settle over him like a shield. The past had been confronted, secrets revealed, and the bonds of family reinforced. Chapter 12. The last letter she never sent. The morning light spilled gently across the living room, casting a soft glow over the photographs, journals, and letters that had become symbols of their journey. Ethan sat at the desk, pen in hand, staring at a blank page. Today, he would finally confront the letter he had never sent. A confession of love, apology, and longing that had been written but left unread for years. He took a deep breath, thinking of Lila and Maya. The letter was not for anyone else but himself, a reminder of the choices he had made, the regrets he had carried, and the hope he now held. The decision to share. Ethan unfolded the carefully preserved letter. Written years ago in a time when he was too proud, too distracted, or too fearful to speak the truth. The words were raw, filled with emotion he had hidden even from himself. "I am sorry for every moment I took for granted. I am sorry for my absence, my mistakes, and the love I failed to show when it mattered most. I hope you can forgive me someday, and I hope I can become the man you needed me to be." He looked up at Lila, who had quietly entered the room. "I think it's time," he said softly. "Time to share this with you, and finally let the past rest." Lila nodded, eyes shimmering. "I'm ready, Ethan. I want to hear it." Reading the past aloud. Ethan read the letter aloud, his voice trembling slightly but growing steadier with each sentence. Lila listened intently, a mixture of sorrow, understanding, and compassion in her gaze. When he finished, silence enveloped the room. The weight of years, of mistakes and misunderstandings, hung in the air. Then Lila spoke, her voice soft but firm. "Thank you for sharing this. It's painful, but it's necessary. I can hear your heart now. And it's different from the man who left me feeling alone. You've changed, Ethan. You've grown." Ethan exhaled slowly. "I hope my actions now prove more than words ever could. But I can be the husband and father you deserve." Lila reached for his hand. "They already do. Every day, in every moment." A family rebirth. That afternoon, Ethan suggested they create a small ritual, placing the letter in a glass frame on the mantel as a symbol of acknowledged mistakes and renewed commitment. Maya helped, excitedly choosing the spot and decorating it with small drawings and pressed flowers. "This is so we remember, Daddy," Maya said, smiling, "that we can always try again, no matter what." "Yes," Ethan replied, hugging her tightly. "We'll always try." Together, Lila joined them, her eyes glistening. It's a reminder that forgiveness is a choice, love is a choice, and family. Family is the greatest gift we can nurture every day. The frame stood prominently in the living room, a silent testament to growth, reconciliation, and the power of confronting truths long buried, reflection and promises. As night fell, Ethan and Lila sat on the porch, the stars twinkling above Willow Lane. The river nearby glimmered softly, reflecting the serenity that had slowly returned to their lives. "I never thought I'd feel this at peace," Ethan admitted. "After everything, the mistakes, the regrets, I feel like we've truly found our way home." Lila rested her head on his shoulder. "Peace isn't given. It's built. Every day, with effort, honesty, and love. We've done that, together." Ethan held her close. "I promise to never take this for granted. To be present, patient, and loving. To face every challenge, every shadow, knowing that we are stronger together." Maya peeked out from the window, a sleepy smile on her face. "I love you both," she whispered. "And we love you," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. More than anything, the power of forgiveness. That night, Ethan returned to his journal. He wrote a final entry, reflecting on the lessons learned. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Redemption is not perfection. Love is not static. It is the choice to remain present, to act with care, and to embrace vulnerability. We cannot change the past, but we can honor it by living fully, with honesty and compassion. Today, we choose each other again. He closed the journal, feeling a sense of completion and readiness. The letter that had never been sent was now acknowledged. the past reconciled, and the family's bonds stronger than ever. A new beginning. The next morning, sunlight filled the house, casting warm rays across the familiar rooms. Ethan, Lila, and Maya sat together at the breakfast table, laughter flowing freely, a sound that had once seemed impossible to hear without tension or hesitation. Outside, the world continued in its steady rhythm, but inside, the family had created a new reality, one built on truth, forgiveness, and the conscious choice to love unconditionally. Ethan looked at Lila and Maya, his heart full. "This is only the beginning," he said softly. "The past taught us, but it does not define us. From now on, we write our own story together." Lila nodded, smiling through tears. "And we will. Every day, every choice." Maya clapped her hands. "Best family ever." Ethan laughed, pulling them both close. "Yes, the best family ever. And we'll keep proving it, every single day." Final thoughts. The last letter she never sent was no longer a symbol of regret, but a catalyst for growth, understanding, and redemption. Through honesty, courage, and unwavering commitment, Ethan, Lila, and Maya had transformed pain into connection, mistakes into lessons, and absence into presence. The story of their struggle and reconciliation was a reminder that love is not effortless, but deliberate, that forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves as much as others, and that even the deepest wounds can heal when met with patience, empathy, and choice. As night settled over Willow Lane, the family lay together, hearts aligned, ready to face whatever the future held, stronger, closer, and infinitely more aware of the preciousness of every shared moment. The end.